Tip woke to the sound of a hoof slamming against the barn wall. One sharp crack, then another. Every damn morning, like clockwork. He groaned, rolled onto his side, and stared at the ceiling of his one-room cabin. The boards above him were old, warped, and full of knots that looked like eyes watching him sleep. He'd gotten used to them. He'd gotten used to a lot of things. With a grunt, he threw off his blanket and sat upright, his bare feet hitting the cold dirt floor. The chill bit at his skin, but Tip didn't mind. Cold meant he was still alive. Cold meant the world hadn't forgotten him yet. He tossed a few logs onto the embers in the hearth, coaxing the fire back to life. The flames licked upward, casting a warm glow across the cramped room. A bed, a table, a chair, and not much else. Tip didn't need much, never had. Outside, the horse kicked the barn again. "I heard ya," Tip muttered. "Ain't like I'm deaf." He stepped outside to relieve himself, the morning air sharp enough to make his eyes water. The sky was pale, washed-out blue, the kind that promised a long, cold day. He looked toward the barn. The horses stared back at him, ears pricked, breath steaming in the air. "Y'all can wait a damn minute," he said, turning back inside to dress. He pulled on his trousers, his shirt, his boots, all worn, all patched, all familiar. He set the kettle on the stove, poured in water from the bucket by the door, and waited for it to heat. The smell of wood smoke filled the cabin, comforting in a way Tip would never admit out loud. When the water was hot enough, he poured himself a cup of weak coffee and stepped outside, cradling the tin mug in both hands. The steam curled into the cold air as he walked toward the barn. The horses greeted him with impatient snorts. Buck, the same horse he'd ridden through the war, the same horse who'd carried him across half the state, stomped his hoof and tossed his head. All right, Tip said. "Ain't no need to get dramatic." He slid the barn door open. The smell of hay and leather washed over him, warm and familiar. The horses shifted in their stalls, their eyes bright in the dim light. Tip moved through the barn with the ease of a man who'd done this 1,000 times. He scooped grain, filled troughs, checked hooves, tightened straps. He talked to the horses as he worked, not because he expected them to answer, but because talking to them felt easier than talking to people. "Buck, you're getting fat," he said, patting the gelding's neck. Buck snorted, offended. "Don't give me that look. You know it's true." The horse nudged him in the shoulder, nearly knocking him off balance. Tip laughed, a rare sound, rough and rusty from disuse. "You're trouble," he said. "Always been trouble." He finished feeding them, then grabbed a brush and started working through Buck's coat. The horse leaned into the strokes, eyes half closed. Tip felt his own shoulders relax, the tension of the morning easing. This was the part of the day he liked best. The quiet, the routine, the simple work of caring for something that depended on him. The war had taken a lot from him, but it hadn't taken this. When he finished brushing Buck, he stepped back and admired the horse. Strong, steady, loyal. The best damn animal he'd ever known. "You'll outlive me," Tip said softly. "Ain't no doubt about that." Buck flicked an ear, as if disagreeing. Tip chuckled and turned to grab the pitchfork. He had stalls to clean, hay to move, a whole day's worth of chores ahead of him. The farm didn't care if he was tired. The farm didn't care if he was lonely. The farm just needed doing. He stepped into Buck's stall, pitchfork in hand. Buck shifted, restless. "Easy," Tip said. "Ain't nothing to get worked up about." But Buck wasn't listening. His ears pinned back, his muscles tensed. Tip frowned, stepping closer. "What's got into you?" Buck sidestepped, hooves scraping against the wooden floor. Tip reached out a hand, trying to calm him. "Hey now," the horse kicked. Tip didn't see it coming. One moment he was standing there, hand outstretched, and the next the world went white around the edges. There was a sound, a deep, hollow thud, and then silence. The barn went still. Dust drifted through the air, catching the morning light. The horses shifted uneasily, their breaths loud in the quiet. Buck stood trembling, his head lowered, as if ashamed. Tip lay crumpled in the straw, eyes closed, the pitchfork a few feet away. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, like a man waking from a long sleep, Tip opened his eyes. He sat up, confused. The barn looked the same, but different somehow. The light felt thinner, the air felt colder. The horses watched him with wide, uncertain eyes. Tip stood, brushing straw from his clothes. He felt strange, light, untethered. He looked down. His body lay in the straw, still and silent. Tip stared at it, his breath catching in his throat, though he wasn't sure he was breathing at all. "Well," he said softly, "ain't that something?" Buck stepped forward, nudging the air where Tip stood. The horse's breath passed through him like fog. Tip reached out, placing a hand on Buck's neck. He didn't feel warmth, didn't feel anything. But Buck calmed. Tip looked around the barn, the stalls, the tools, the dust motes drifting in the light. This place had been his whole world, his refuge, his burden, his home. He wasn't ready to leave it. "Reckon I'll stick around," he said. And so he did. Alexander Bruce, Tip, last horseman of Hollow Farm, stayed in the barn long after his body was carried away. Stayed with the horses he loved. Stayed with the farm he tried to tame. Stayed because he didn't know how to do anything else. Stayed because someone would need him someday. And Hollow Farm remembered him.